People who believe conspiracy theories are not, on average, less intelligent than those who don't. They are not uniquely paranoid, poorly educated, or politically extreme. Research conducted over the past decade has found that conspiratorial thinking is widespread across education levels, income brackets, and political affiliations. In a 2022 study by the Reuters Institute, 60% of Americans agreed with at least one conspiracy theory. What does it mean when the majority of people in a society believe something that isn't true? It means the psychology driving it isn't a defect. It's a feature. The psychological machinery that generates susceptibility to conspiracy theories serves adaptive functions that evolution optimized over hundreds of thousands of years. Pattern recognition, threat detection, social coalition awareness, and skepticism of powerful outsiders, these are not bugs in human cognition. They are the firmware of survival. Conspiracy theories emerge when this firmware runs on modern information environments it was never designed to process. The brain isn't broken. It's running ancient software on a network it wasn't built for. The term researchers use is patternicity, the tendency to find meaningful patterns in noise. Michael Shermer, founding publisher of Skeptic magazine, has documented that humans are hyperactive pattern detectors. We err on the side of seeing patterns that aren't there rather than missing patterns that are. In an ancestral environment, the cost of falsely detecting a predator in the bushes was minor. The cost of failing to detect one was death. The bias toward false positives was, and remains, built in. This hyperactive pattern detection, when applied to complex social and political events, generates what psychologist Karen Douglas calls proportionality bias, the intuition that large events must have large causes. The assassination of a president cannot be the work of a single unstable man. A global pandemic cannot begin with a single transmission. A financial crisis cannot result from ordinary systemic failure. The scale of the event demands a commensurate scale of cause, a powerful, deliberate, coordinated conspiracy. The pattern-seeking brain fills in the proportionality gap. The assassination of John F. Kennedy is the paradigm case. Polls have consistently found that a majority of Americans believe a conspiracy was involved, despite 5 separate official investigations finding no conclusive evidence of one. The single bullet theory, that one bullet caused multiple wounds across 2 men, is widely perceived as implausible. But ballistic physics and wound trajectory analysis consistently support the official account. What makes the lone gunman explanation feel wrong isn't the evidence. It's the proportionality bias. A president is simply too significant to be killed by a single erratic individual. A second powerful driver is the need for cognitive closure, the desire for clear, certain answers to ambiguous questions. Research by Ari Krudlansky established that people vary in their need for cognitive closure, and that high-closure individuals are more susceptible to belief in conspiracy theories under conditions of uncertainty and perceived threat. Conspiracy theories excel at providing closure. They explain why things happened, who did them, and why it's being hidden. In a world full of ambiguity, that completeness is psychologically appealing. The psychology of powerlessness is a third mechanism. A meta-analysis of conspiracy belief research published in 2018 in Current Directions in Psychological Science found a consistent relationship between feelings of low control over one's environment and susceptibility to conspiracy theories. When external events, economic, political, or social, feel outside your influence, the mind searches for an explanatory framework. Conspiracy theories restore a form of cognitive agency. You may not control the situation, but you understand it. You're not helpless. You're aware. Social identity is equally important. Jan-Willem van Prooijen of Rijksuniversiteit Amsterdam has documented that people disproportionately believe conspiracy theories that cast their political outgroup as the conspirators. Democrats are more likely to believe conspiracies attributed to Republicans. Republicans are more likely to believe the reverse. This is not because one group is more rational than the other. Both groups are using the same tribal cognition to find threats in the outgroup. The specific conspiracy content is almost secondary to the social identity function it serves. The monological nature of conspiracy belief, documented by Robbie Sutton and Karen Douglas, is one of its most psychologically interesting features. People who believe one conspiracy theory are more likely to believe others, even logically incompatible ones. Someone who believes the moon landing was faked may also believe NASA is covering up its discovery of alien life. Someone who believes the COVID vaccine is a tracking device may also believe 5G towers cause COVID, despite these being technically incompatible. What they share is not a specific belief. It's a general epistemic stance. Official accounts lie. This meta-belief, that powerful actors routinely deceive the public, is not entirely irrational. Governments and corporations have documented histories of significant deception. The Tuskegee syphilis study, where the U.S. government withheld treatment from black men to study the disease's progression, the tobacco industry's 40-year campaign to suppress evidence of smoking's harms, COINTELPRO, the FBI's illegal surveillance and sabotage of civil rights leaders. The conspiracies that actually happen provide real-world calibration for the suspicion that drives belief in ones that didn't. This creates a genuine epistemic challenge. Healthy skepticism of authority and actual conspiracy theory are on a continuum without a bright line between them. The Tuskegee study was a real conspiracy that would have sounded implausible as a theory. The distinction between warranted skepticism and conspiratorial thinking lies not in the belief that powerful actors sometimes deceive people, they do, but in the standard of evidence required before accepting a specific claim and in the interpretive framework applied to ambiguous events. Online algorithms have created what researchers call rabbit holes, recommendation systems that respond to expressed interest in one conspiratorial topic by suggesting increasingly extreme versions of the same themes. This algorithmic radicalization doesn't require any individual actor with malicious intent. It's an emergent property of engagement optimization. Conspiratorial content produces high engagement content gets recommended, and the recommendations grow more extreme because extremity drives more engagement than nuance. Confirmation bias, the tendency to seek, interpret, and remember information that confirms existing beliefs, operates powerfully within conspiratorial frameworks. A believer who encounters evidence against their theory is more likely to interpret it as evidence of the conspiracy's depth. The cover-up extends to the people presenting this evidence. This is called an unfalsifiable belief structure. No possible evidence could disprove the theory because any counter-evidence is absorbed as confirmation. The theory becomes epistemically closed. The paradox of shared secrecy is a logical argument against large-scale conspiracies that most believers don't encounter. In 2016, physicist David Grimes published a mathematical model in PLOS One estimating how long large conspiracies could remain secret given realistic rates of whistleblowing and accidental exposure. His model found that a conspiracy involving thousands of people, like a faked moon landing requiring NASA employees, contractors, and international witnesses, would be exposed, statistically, within 3 to 4 years. Sustained secrecy at scale is not impossible, but it is increasingly improbable with each additional person required to maintain it. Personality research has identified a trait cluster associated with higher conspiracy belief, a combination of high paranoia, low agreeableness, high schizotypy, and what researchers call epistemic mistrust, a generalized skepticism of knowledge conveyed by others. Crucially, these traits also correlate with higher scores on some measures of creative thinking and willingness to consider unconventional ideas. The same cognitive style that makes someone susceptible to conspiracy theories also produces a resistance to dogmatic orthodoxy that has genuine value. The anxiety spike of 2020, the confluence of a global pandemic, political crisis, and economic disruption, produced a measurable surge in conspiracy belief worldwide. Studies by researchers at the Oxford Internet Institute found significant increases in conspiratorial ideation across multiple countries during the first year of the pandemic. This is consistent with the threat and uncertainty model. Maximum ambient threat combined with institutional uncertainty and conflicting information is the ideal environment for conspiratorial thinking to flourish. What actually reduces conspiratorial thinking?
The research identifies a few consistent interventions.
Pre-bunking, preemptive inoculation against conspiracy logic before exposure, is more effective than debunking after the fact. Explaining the rhetorical and logical techniques used in conspiracy theories, rather than attacking specific beliefs, reduces susceptibility to new ones. Research by Sander van der Linden found that brief exposure to the concept of manipulation techniques reduced susceptibility to misinformation across politically diverse groups. Directness about specific claims is less effective than addressing the underlying needs. Research consistently finds that fact-checking conspiracy theories head-on rarely changes minds and sometimes backfires by making believers feel persecuted and reinforcing the counter-narrative identity. More effective approaches address the underlying psychological needs, restoring a sense of control, providing genuine community, and engaging with the legitimate distrust of institutions that underlies many conspiracy beliefs. The uncomfortable truth about conspiracy theories is that some of what makes them appealing, skepticism of power, pattern recognition, social solidarity, epistemic independence, are genuinely valuable cognitive and social traits when calibrated correctly. The challenge is not to eliminate the impulse to question official narratives. The challenge is to apply rigorous evidential standards to those questions without demanding certainty that the world rarely provides. That balance, between warranted skepticism and epistemological paranoia, is one of the hardest cognitive skills a human being can develop. What marks the difference between a conspiracy theory and a legitimate conspiracy investigation is ultimately methodological. Does the evidence standard apply symmetrically? Is counter-evidence given the same weight as supporting evidence? Is the theory falsifiable in principle? Could any evidence persuade you it was wrong? Are alternative explanations genuinely considered? Are motivated sources acknowledged? These questions don't guarantee truth. But they create the conditions in which truth becomes possible. In an era designed to exploit your pattern recognition, they may be the most important questions you can ask.